The warning. Admiral Thex Valen stood motionless before the curved viewport of his observation vessel, his four eyes fixed on the blue-white marble of Earth floating in the distance. 20 cycles of military service had taught him to trust his instincts, and every fiber of his being screamed that the Galactic Concordat was about to make a catastrophic mistake. "Admiral, the High Council is ready to receive your report," his aide, Lieutenant Kira, announced from behind him. Her tone carried a note of concern. She'd served with him long enough to read his moods. Valen's scaled fingers tightened around the data crystal containing his findings from 3 years of covered observation. "They won't like what I have to say, Kira." "They never do, sir." The holographic chamber materialized around him as he stepped onto the transmission pad. 12 figures seated in a semicircle materialized. The High Council of the Concordat, the most powerful beings in known space. Their species were diverse, but their expressions shared a common thread of impatient superiority. "Admiral Valen," High Counselor Zex's voice boomed across the chamber. "Your preliminary reports about this primitive world have been troubling. Surely you don't mean to suggest we delay the standard incorporation procedure?" Valen held his ground. "Counselors, I absolutely do. Earth is unlike any world we've encountered in our expansion. These humans barely have faster-than-light travel," interrupted Counselor Marine, her tentacles writhing in dismissal. "Their ships are crude. Their weapons rely on projectiles and chemical propellants. They haven't even unified their planet under a single government." "That's precisely what makes them dangerous," Valen pressed. "In the past century alone, they'd gone from atmospheric flight to establishing colonies on their neighboring planets. Their rate of technological advancement is unprecedented." He activated the data crystal, and scenes began playing in the center of the chamber. Warfare across Earth's history, evolving from swords to guns to nuclear weapons in a mere blink of cosmic time. But more importantly, scenes of human ingenuity. Their scientists working with primitive tools to achieve remarkable breakthroughs, their soldiers adapting tactics on the fly, their civilians showing remarkable resilience in the face of disasters. "Their survivors," Valen continued. "They face extinction-level events multiple times and emerged stronger. They don't think like we do. Where we seek harmony and standardization, they thrive on chaos and individual initiative. Their military doctrine isn't built on overwhelming force. It's built on adaptation, on turning weakness into strength." High Counselor Zex leaned forward, his crystalline form catching the light. "You sound almost admiring, Admiral. Need I remind you of the Concordat's purpose? We bring order to chaos. We elevate primitive species into our civilization. This is not a debate. It is merely a scheduling matter." Valen felt his secondary heart rate increasing in frustration. "At least let us approach them diplomatically first. Show them the benefits of joining the Concordat voluntarily." "Their fragmented political structure makes that impossible," Counselor Marine said. "No, we will proceed with standard protocols. Our ships will appear over their major cities. We will demonstrate our power. They will submit, as all others have. And if they don't, then they will learn why the Concordat has stood unopposed for 10,000 years." Zex's tone made it clear the discussion was over. "You are dismissed, Admiral. The incorporation fleet will launch within the cycle." As the holographic chamber faded, Valen found himself back on his observation vessel, his aide waiting expectantly. "They didn't listen," Kira stated rather than asked. "No." Valen moved to his command console and began entering coordinates. "Get me everything we have on their orbital defense networks. If the Council won't listen to reason, we need to at least be prepared for what's coming." "Sir," Kira's translator clicked in confusion. "Surely you don't think—" "I think, Lieutenant, that we're about to learn why humans have a saying. Necessity is the mother of invention. And I fear the Concordat is about to become very necessary to them indeed." As his ship's engines powered up, Valen took one last look at the peaceful blue world below. In all his years of service, he'd never filed a minority report disagreeing with the High Council's decisions, but as he began composing one now, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching the beginning of something that would shake the galaxy to its foundations. In the following days, Velen threw himself into analyzing every scrap of data they'd gathered. The humans' communications were surprisingly easy to intercept. They'd broadcast everything from entertainment to military frequencies with little regard for who might be listening. It painted a picture that only deepened his concern. He watched their fiction. Stories they told about first contact with alien civilizations. In nearly every scenario, humans imagined themselves as underdogs fighting against technologically superior invaders. And they won, again and again, through cunning, determination, and sheer bloody-mindedness. Their stories showed humans triumphing against impossible odds. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to relish it. Where other species dreamed of peace and harmony, humans actively imagined conflict and prepared for it. They didn't just adapt to overcome challenges. They seemed to become stronger because of them. "Lieutenant," he called out one evening, after reviewing footage of something humans called guerrilla warfare for the dozenth time. "What do you make of this?" Kira studied the historical footage of much smaller forces defeating larger, better-equipped armies through unconventional tactics. "It's unsettling, sir. They seem to take pride in being outmatched. Because they've learned that superior force doesn't guarantee victory." Velen gestured at his screens. "Look at their military spending. Even their smallest nations maintain armed forces. They war-game constantly. Every human soldier is trained to think independently, to improvise. The Concordat's protocols don't account for that kind of resistance. The Concordat's protocols don't account for humans at all." Valen's outer eyes narrowed while his inner ones focused on a new data stream. "And now I'm seeing increased activity in their orbital defense networks. They've spotted our observation posts." "Impossible," Kira protested. "Our cloaking technology is being detected by primitive radar systems that shouldn't be able to see us at all." Velen finished. "They're already adapting, already preparing. And the Incorporation fleet is still treating this like a standard operation." He turned to his aide, all four eyes glowing with intensity. "Send a priority message to Fleet Command. Tell them—" He paused, mandibles clicking as he chose his words carefully. "Tell them that if they proceed with standard protocols, they're not conducting an incorporation. They're starting a war, and it's one I'm not certain we can win." The message was sent. Valen knew it would be ignored, just like all his others. But he had to try, because in all his years of studying humans, he'd learned one thing with absolute certainty. Underestimating them was a mistake you only got to make once. First contact gone wrong. The first signs that Admiral Valen's warnings were justified came not with a bang, but with silence. The Concordat's initial surveillance drones, sent to map Earth's major population centers, simply vanished. No debris, no distress signals. They were there one moment and gone the next. Commander Yux of the Incorporation fleet dismissed it as equipment malfunction. Launched the second wave, he ordered from the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dawn, and begin broadcasting the standard submission protocols. Across Earth, millions looked up as their screens flickered to life with an unexpected transmission. The Concordat's message was being broadcast on every frequency, in every language. "Submit to our guidance. Resistance is futile. Your incorporation into the Galactic Concordat will proceed." In the observation vessel holding position near Saturn, Valen watched with growing dread as human communications erupted with activity. But it wasn't the panic the Concordat expected. Instead, he saw determination, coordination, and most worryingly, preparation. "Sir," Kira called out, her voice tense. "You need to see this." The tactical display showed hundreds of small objects detaching from what they had assumed were debris fields in Earth's orbit. Hidden in plain sight among their own space junk, humanity had constructed a web of defensive satellites far more sophisticated than anything the Concordat had detected. "Warn the fleet. Valen ordered, but it was already too late. The first wave of the Incorporation fleet dropped out of FTL Drive near Earth's moon, their massive ships dwarfing anything humanity had ever built. Commander Yux stood smugly on his bridge, waiting for the inevitable surrender transmissions. Instead, the human satellites activated as one. Not with primitive projectile weapons or nuclear devices as expected, but with precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses that had been specifically calibrated to the Concordat's shield frequencies. Impossible. Yux breathed as ship after ship went dark, their advanced systems overwhelmed by what should have been primitive technology. They couldn't have known our frequencies. We've never even contacted them. But they had known. Through careful observation of the Concordat's observation vessels, through analysis of tiny energy fluctuations that Valen's own crew had considered too minor to notice, Earth's scientists had pieced together the fundamental principles of Concordat technology. All ships fall back, Yux ordered, but in the chaos of disabled systems, his commands reached only a fraction of the fleet. That's when the second phase of Earth's defense revealed itself. Small, agile ships emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. They were ugly by Concordat standards, clearly retrofitted civilian vessels and hastily constructed warships. But they moved with practiced precision, targeting the disabled Concordat ships with conventional weapons that bypassed their now useless energy shields entirely. From his position near Saturn, Valen watched the disaster unfold. They let us watch them, he realized aloud. All this time, they knew we were here, and they let us watch them, study them, because they were studying us right back. The Incorporation fleet's response was predictably rigid, following standard protocols for dealing with primitive resistance. But there was nothing primitive about the coordination of Earth's forces. They seemed to operate with minimal central command, each ship captain making independent decisions while working toward common objectives. "Sir," Kira reported, "I'm intercepting transmissions from Earth's surface. Multiple military forces are mobilizing, but not just their armies. Civilian contractors, private space companies, even their entertainment industry. They're all being integrated into the war effort." Valen nodded grimly. "Of course they are. Look at their history. Every time they've faced an existential threat, they've mounted a total civilization response. The Concordat thinks they're fragmented, but they're about to learn that humans can unite very quickly when they need to." The battle near the moon had become a chaotic mess. Concordat ships that managed to restore power found themselves targeted by swarms of smaller human vessels using what appeared to be mining equipment modified into weapons. When the Concordat ships attempted to regroup using standard tactical formations, the humans would scatter, only to reappear from unexpected vectors. Commander Yux's voice crackled across the emergency channels, strained and disbelieving. "They're boarding our disabled ships, using primitive cutting tools to breach the hulls. This isn't possible. These tactics aren't in any manual. There's no protocol for this." "That's the point," Valen muttered. "There never was." The next few hours brought more surprises. Human ships began using the Concordat's own disabled vessels as shields, hiding behind them, to launch attacks on the still-functioning ships. They seemed to have no regard for proper space combat doctrine, improvising tactics that no Concordat commander would ever consider. But the greatest shock came when several of the disabled Concordat ships suddenly powered back up, under human control. Somehow, in the midst of battle, human engineers had managed to not only understand but redirect the alien technology. "Sir," Kira's voice was filled with disbelief, "they're accessing our secure communication channels. They'd decrypted our protocols." Valen watched as the Incorporation fleet fell into complete disarray. The humans were now broadcasting on Concordat frequencies, issuing false orders, creating confusion, and picking off ships one by one. What should have been a simple show of force had turned into a military disaster. "Lieutenant," Valen said quietly, "prepare a full data package of everything we've observed. The Council needs to understand what they've started here. This isn't going to be an incorporation. This is going to be a war unlike anything the Concordat has ever faced. As if to emphasize his point, new contacts began appearing on their sensors, hundreds of them, launching from Earth and its colonies throughout the solar system. The humans weren't just defending, they were preparing to counterattack. Should we retreat to Concordat space? Kira asked. Velen considered for a long moment. No, we stay and watch. Someone needs to bear witness to this. Someone needs to make the Concordat understand what humanity really is. As the battle raged on, Velen composed another report to the High Council. This time, he didn't bother with diplomatic language or careful suggestions. His message was simple and direct. You didn't heed my warning about humanity's capabilities. Now learn from their response to our aggression. They will not submit. They will not follow our protocols. They will adapt, improvise, and overcome. The Concordat has not faced a true challenge in 10,000 years. That era of complacency ends today. As he sent the message, the tactical display showed the remnants of the Incorporation fleet in full retreat, pursued by swarms of human ships already painted with kill markings and victory slogans. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were learning, improving, and getting stronger with each passing moment. The real war hadn't even begun. Unconventional warfare. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the retrofitted asteroid base, surrounded by holographic displays showing the captured Concordat technology. 3 months had passed since the failed incorporation attempt, and humanity had been busy. The base, officially designated as Advanced Research Station 7, but nicknamed Pandora's Box by its crew, was just one of many hidden throughout the asteroid belt. Talk to me, Dr. Chen. General Rodriguez's hologram flickered in the center of the room. Please tell me you've got something good. Sarah allowed herself a small smile as she pulled up the latest test results. Better than good, General. We've cracked their quantum communication protocols. Their entire network is based on principles we theorized but never implemented. Until now. The General's hologram leaned forward. In English, Doctor. We can listen to everything they say, everywhere they say it, and they can't detect us doing it. She paused for effect. And better yet, we can talk back. Across the solar system, the war had evolved into something the Concordat had never experienced in its millennia of existence. Their second attack wave had been met not just with resistance, but with their own technology turned against them in ways their designers had never imagined possible. In the command center of the Eternal Vigilance, the Concordat's newest flagship, Fleet Commander Dax received increasingly desperate reports. Another supply convoy lost in the asteroid belt. Commander, his tactical officer reported. Same as the others. No distress call, no debris. They just vanish. Dax's facial scales darkened in frustration. The humans had transformed the asteroid belt into a maze of death. They didn't just hide their bases in the asteroids. They'd moved the asteroids themselves, creating an ever-shifting battlefield that made standard patrol routes impossible. Sir, his communication officer called out, we're receiving unusual transmissions. Specify. They're coming through on our secure channels, but they're not in any known format. They appear to be entertainment broadcasts. Dax's confusion turned to horror as his ship's holographic displays suddenly activated without command. Throughout the vessel, human entertainment began playing. Music, movies, broadcasts. But hidden within the signals was something far more insidious. Back in Pandora's box, Sarah watched the operation unfold through their quantum taps. The viral code is spreading through their fleet's network, she reported. They never considered their entertainment systems a security risk. Why would they? Their technology was supposed to be unhackable. And now? Rodriguez asked. Now we own their network. Every time they try to purge our code, it evolves, just like we designed it to. Sarah brought up another display showing the virus's progress. We learned from Earth's history. From every computer virus, every piece of malware, every digital attack ever created. Then we combined them all and let the AI improve the design. The Concordat's response to the human guerrilla tactics was predictably straightforward. They sent in bigger ships with more powerful weapons. But size meant nothing in the asteroid belt. The humans had learned to think differently about space warfare, treating zero gravity and vast distances not as obstacles but as opportunities. They're launching another sweep of the belt, Sarah's tactical officer reported. 5 heavy cruisers, standard search pattern. Sarah nodded. Let them come. Activate the gravity nets. What the Concordat called primitive human mining technology had been repurposed into weapons they never saw coming. Artificial gravity fields, originally designed for asteroid mining, now served as deadly traps. The massive Concordat ships found themselves caught in overlapping gravity fields, their own size and power working against them as they were torn apart by competing gravitational forces. Dr. Chen, a young engineer, burst into the command center. We've finished analyzing their shield modulators. You're going to want to see this. The discovery was revolutionary. The Concordat's energy shields, thought to be their greatest defensive advantage, actually created detectable distortions in space-time. Distortions that, once understood, could be exploited. Their shields don't fail when we overpower them. Sarah explained to her team. They fail when we match their resonant frequency and introduce just enough chaos into the system to cause cascade failures. It's not about brute force. It's about finding the right weakness and applying precise pressure. The insights gained from studying Concordat technology led to more than just military applications. Human scientists began understanding principles of physics they had only theorized about before. Each captured piece of alien tech was reverse-engineered, improved upon, and repurposed in ways its original designers had never intended. In the makeshift laboratory deep within the asteroid, Sarah stood before a captured Concordat power core. Their entire civilization is built on the principle of order, she mused. Every system perfectly regulated, every process following exact protocols. They never learned to adapt because they never had to. And that's their weakness, one of her colleagues asked. That's their weakness. They see technology as something to be used according to specifications. We see it as something to be tinkered with, improved, combined in new ways. She gestured to their latest project, a hybrid drive system that combined Concordat quantum technology with human ingenuity. They build perfect machines. We build machines that can evolve. The war continued to escalate, but not in the way the Concordat expected. Instead of grand fleet battles, they faced an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Human ships would appear from hiding spots in the asteroid belt, strike with devastating precision using hybridized weapons, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Another patrol lost. Commander Dax reported to the High Council. They're using our own targeting systems against us somehow. The humans have found a way to detect our ships by the very technology that's supposed to make us superior. In Pandora's box, Sarah received word of yet another successful operation, but she knew the real challenges were still ahead. The Concordat was learning, slowly but surely. They would adapt eventually. They had to, if they wanted to survive. General, she addressed Rodriguez's hologram. We need to push harder. The Concordat's starting to change their protocols, trying to counter our tactics. We need something they can't possibly expect. What did you have in mind? Sarah smiled as she brought up the schematics for their most ambitious project yet. I think it's time we showed them what happens when human creativity meets alien technology. We're going to steal one of their worlds. The turning point. Admiral Thex Valen's ship dropped out of FTL on the edge of the solar system, running dark. Behind him, the pursuing Concordat vessels were still searching the wrong sector of space. His gamble had paid off. The humans' hack of the Concordat's quantum network had successfully fed false intelligence to his pursuers. Transfer complete, Lieutenant Kira reported, her voice tight with tension. The humans have received our full tactical database. though I still think this is suicide, sir. Noted, Lieutenant. Valen's outer eyes tracked the approaching human vessels while his inner pair studied their tactical readouts. But the Concordat left us no choice, not after what we discovered. The human ships surrounded them in a precise formation, not the standard containment pattern he'd expected, but something new, something adaptive. Their escort to Earth was conducted in complete silence, no demands, no threats. Just professional efficiency that spoke volumes about how much humanity had learned in the months since first contact. In a retrofitted conference room deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Dr. Sarah Chen studied the alien admiral with unconcealed curiosity. The human and Concordat delegation sat at opposite ends of a long table, but the power dynamic was nothing like what the Concordat had envisioned during their attempted incorporation. "Your intelligence confirms what we suspected," Sarah said, reviewing the data on her tablet. The Concordat's expansion wasn't just about bringing order to the galaxy. They were running from something. Valen's scales rippled in what humans had learned was a sign of deep concern. The High Council buried the truth so deep that even most of our own military leaders don't know it. But yes, the rigid order, the constant expansion, the incorporation of new species, it was all preparation for war. A war against an enemy that nearly destroyed us 10,000 years ago. The Void Swimmers, General Rodriguez said from his position at the head of the table. Your data refers to them as silicon-based entities that exist in interstellar space. They're returning, Valen confirmed. Our long-range sensors detected their approaching swarms 6 months ago. The High Council accelerated the incorporation program, desperate to gather more resources and subject species before they arrive. But their methods, their rigid protocols. He trailed off, mandibles clicking in frustration. Sarah leaned forward. They're exactly what will get everyone killed when these void swimmers arrive. Precisely. Valen activated a holographic display, showing the tactical analysis of humanity's resistance. In just months, you've done what the Concordat hasn't in millennia. You've innovated, adapted, created new ways of fighting that our enemies won't expect. The human leaders exchanged glances. They had already been preparing their most ambitious operation, the capture of a Concordat world. But this new information changed everything. How long do we have? Rodriguez asked. 8 months, perhaps less. Valen's inner eyes closed in resignation. The High Council will continue their failing strategy until it's too late. Unless we show them a better way. Sarah finished. She pulled up the schematics for Project Prometheus, humanity's plan to hijack an entire planet's defense systems. Admiral, what do you know about the Concordat core world of Nexus Prime? The next few weeks were a flurry of activity. Human scientists worked alongside Valen's defectors, combining their understanding of Concordat technology with humanity's talent for unconventional solutions. The plan that emerged was audacious beyond anything either side had contemplated. It's insane, Kira said, reviewing the final tactical briefing. Using their own planetary defense network to lock out the Concordat fleet, while simultaneously demonstrating the defense capabilities against a simulated void swimmer attack. The timing would have to be perfect. Humans, Valen replied with what they'd learned was his species' equivalent of a smile, have a remarkable talent for achieving the impossible when properly motivated. The operation began not with a massive fleet battle, but with a single transmission. Using the quantum network they compromised, human operators began broadcasting evidence of the void swimmers' approach to every Concordat world simultaneously. Not just sensor data, but historical records the High Council had suppressed, combined with tactical analyses showing the flaws in current Concordat strategy. When the High Council scrambled to suppress the information, they found their communications had been completely co-opted. Every attempt to regain control only spread humanity's message further, and as the truth emerged, so did the resistance. Multiple Concordat worlds are reporting civil unrest, Sarah reported from the command center of Pandora's Box. Military units are standing down, refusing to follow High Council protocols. It's time for Phase 2. The joint human defector fleet appeared over Nexus Prime without warning, not through overwhelming force, but through precise application of the technologies they'd combined. Concordat ships found their quantum drives redirected, their weapons systems reconfigured, their shields harmonically disrupted. But the true masterstroke came from the planet itself. Sarah's team had spent months infiltrating Nexus Prime's defense network through commercial entertainment channels. When the signal was given, the entire planetary defense grid reconfigured itself, turning the Concordat's own protocols against them. Message from the surface, Rodriguez announced. The Nexus Prime military command is standing down. They're requesting a joint tactical briefing on void swimmer defense strategies. Valen felt his heart swell with an emotion he'd never expected to feel: hope. The Concordat built its power on bringing order to chaos, he said, but humanity has taught us that true strength lies in learning to adapt to chaos, to embrace it and grow stronger from it. As the joint fleet secured Nexus Prime, signals began arriving from across Concordat space. World after world, seeing the truth about both the approaching threat and humanity's innovative solutions, began declaring their independence from High Council control. Not to break away, but to forge a new kind of alliance. In the aftermath, Sarah found Valen studying tactical displays of the approaching void swimmer swarms. "There's still much to do," the Admiral said without turning. "The real war is yet to come." "True," Sarah agreed, "but now we face it together. And if there's one thing humans do better than adapting to win a war, what's that? Teaching others how to adapt with us." She pulled up the latest designs, Concordat technology reimagined through human creativity, ready to face an enemy that had no idea what was coming for them. A new understanding. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime's Central Command had never seen a gathering quite like this. Representatives from 100 Concordat worlds sat alongside human delegates, their differences in biology and culture overshadowed by their shared purpose. At the center of it all, Dr. Sarah Chen and Admiral Valen stood before a holographic display of the approaching void swimmer swarms. "They'll reach the outer colonies in 4 months," Sarah explained, manipulating the display to show the enemy's formation. Thanks to the combined sensor data from both our civilizations, we now understand their weaknesses." The void swimmers appeared as massive crystalline structures that moved through the void between stars, consuming energy and breaking down matter at the atomic level. The Concordat had faced them before with rigid tactics and overwhelming force. This time would be different. "The simulations are clear," Valen added, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled delegates. "Conventional weapons, no matter how powerful, only fragment them into smaller, equally dangerous units. But humanity's approach to adaptive warfare gives us options we never considered." The past 2 months had seen an unprecedented exchange of knowledge and technology. Concordat engineers, freed from the constraints of traditional protocols, worked alongside human scientists to create hybrid systems that neither civilization could have developed alone. "They communicate through quantum-entangled crystalline structures," Sarah continued, highlighting the alien entity's internal architecture. "The Concordat tried to overwhelm these structures. We're going to hack them instead." In orbit above Nexus Prime, the first of the new hybrid defense platforms was nearing completion. It looked like no ship either civilization had built before. Organic curves blended with geometric precision. Human intuition merged with Concordat efficiency. The key was learning to think differently about what constitutes a weapon. Sarah explained. "The void swimmers consume energy, so we'll give them exactly what they want, but on our terms." The plan was quintessentially human in its audacity, yet built on Concordat precision. They would turn the enemy's feeding process against them, using modified quantum resonators to introduce cascading disruptions into their crystalline structures. Each consumed energy pulse would carry viral patterns designed to corrupt their quantum communication networks. "They evolved to feed on standard energy patterns," Valen explained. "They've never encountered systems designed to adapt and evolve in response to their feeding. Every attempt to consume our resources will make our defenses stronger." In the shipyards throughout both human and Concordat space, new vessels were taking shape. They carried weapons that could reconfigure themselves mid-battle, shields that learned from each hit they took, and combat AIs that combined human creativity with Concordat processing power. But the greatest change wasn't in the technology, it was in the people. Concordat tactical officers learned to think independently, to improvise when situations demanded it. Human commanders gained appreciation for the power of coordinated action on a galactic scale. Both sides grew stronger by learning from each other. The High Council's greatest mistake, Valen addressed the Assembly, wasn't underestimating humanity's military capability. It was failing to understand that true strength comes from embracing change, not resisting it. Sarah nodded in agreement, and humanity's greatest achievement wasn't defeating the Concordat. It was showing you a better way to fight, together. As if to punctuate her words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the complex. Long-range sensors detecting accelerated void swimmer movement, a technician announced. They'll reach the outer colonies in half the projected time. The Assembly erupted in concerned murmurs, but Sarah noticed something different from the fear that had gripped the Concordat in their last encounter with this enemy. There was determination now, and something more, anticipation. Good, she said, surprising many of the delegates. Let them come. Every day they give us is another day to innovate, to adapt, to grow stronger. And that's what we do best. Valen stepped forward. The void swimmers expect to face the same Concordat they nearly destroyed 10,000 years ago. Instead, they'll face something unprecedented, a civilization that combines the best of both our peoples, order and chaos, precision and creativity, protocol and innovation. The joint fleet launched the next day, not in the rigid formations the Concordat once favored, but in adaptive patterns that could reorganize themselves based on battlefield conditions. Each ship carried crews from both civilizations, their differences becoming strengths as they learned to see problems from new perspectives. In her command center aboard the flagship Phoenix Rising, a name that carried meaning for both humans and the Concordat, Sarah reviewed the final preparations. The quantum network hummed with activity as ships and crews coordinated across vast distances, sharing tactical insights and updating their strategies in real time. The void swimmers won't expect any of this, Valen observed from his position beside her. They evolved to prey on predictability, on patterns they could understand and exploit. But we're no longer predictable. That's the real victory, Sarah replied. Not just preparing for this battle, but changing how both our civilizations approach every challenge we'll face in the future. The Concordat taught us the value of unity and coordination. We taught you the power of adaptation and innovation. As the first signs of the Void Swimmer Vanguard appeared on their long-range sensors, Sarah felt a surge of pride, not just in humanity's achievements, but in what they'd helped create, a new way of thinking that would reshape the galaxy. Send word to all ships, she commanded. Operation Prometheus is now active. Let's show them what happens when humanity's creativity meets Concordat technology. Together, we're going to rewrite the rules of what's possible. The battle that followed would be remembered not just as a military engagement, but as the moment two civilizations truly became one, their strengths combining to create something greater than either could have achieved alone. And in the vast darkness between the stars, the void swimmers encountered something they had never faced before. An enemy that could adapt as quickly as they could attack, learn from every engagement, and turn their own strengths against them. The age of rigid protocols and unchanging order was over. A new era had begun, built on the foundation of human ingenuity and Concordat technology, ready to face whatever challenges the galaxy might bring. For in learning to work together, they had discovered a fundamental truth. The greatest power comes not from enforcing order or embracing chaos, but from learning to balance both in harmony.